as we look at this particular trinomial, we want to factor this. The head is 3y squared. Now we kind of catch a break here because the leading value is in fact a prime. So the only factors of primes are themselves and 1. So in fact, this is going to be 3y times y. Okay? Now we're going to get into just a little bit later, if this is not a prime number, what kind of considerations go into that. Okay? So first times first still has to be first. So right now we're in the game. We're breaking down this product. Okay? So now we go to the second component, which is the last two things have to multiply to make the last. So I need factor combos for 10. So hopefully we can see that that would be 1 and 10 or 2 and 5. Okay? Now is where we got to get to our next understanding. All right? And that is, so far we have not had to worry about the placement of our factors. Okay? We have not had to worry about that at all. But I want to show everybody something here. And that is, say for instance, I put a 10 here and a 1 here. I just tried that. All right? Well, look what happens now. How much would the outsides be if I multiplied 10 times 3y? Well, that would go all the way to 30y, and the insides would add another 1y, which is 31y. Now, if you look at the middle, they're supposed to add and make 11. So that's way off. That's not correct. But I want you to notice another thing. I place the 1 here and 10 here, I get 31y for the middle. Let's keep that in our mind. Because now, if I took and wrote it this way, shows the same factors, but I just replaced them, notice what happens. Now, the outsides is 3y, and the insides is 10y. Well, 3y and 10y is 13y. So if you remember previously, we had 31y. Here we have 13y, so all of a sudden, can you see what matters? The ordering of the factors, in fact, matters now, and that's because we have this leading value. It's not just y and y anymore. Okay, now whatever this is here is going to be multiplying 3y, so all of a sudden the order matters. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do, when you look at problems where there's a leading coefficient up front, is you need to write your factor combos both ways. Okay, so it's 110 or it's 10-1. 2-5 or 5-2. Okay? So you guys, we're going to go through a process of factoring. And in fact, we kind of already did step 1. Excuse me for that. But you have to choose factor combos for the front. Okay? And we're going to do that. So I'm going to write that down. Choose factors for the front. And I'm going to make another note here. We're going to have to get into it just a little bit, you guys. If given choices, try the tweeners. Okay, now you'll have to trust me that we'll come back and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. There really weren't any choices up front. It was a prime number, so it was 3y times y, and that's where we were at. Now the second thing is what I just made note of here, you guys, and that is order matters now when you place these values. So the second thing is when you're writing down your factor combos, you need to write them both ways. Okay, so step 2, when writing factor combos to yield the last, write them both ways. Okay, hopefully that shows up okay. You can see that. That's critical. Order matters. So you guys, we got our eyeballs to see stuff, and we kind of got to look. What am I getting? Now I'm going to rewrite this down here and try something different. So this did not work. We go 3y. So it's either going to be 2-5 or 5-2. Now, the middle has to add up and make 11. So if you look at this, here's where you got to kind of place them in your mind. If I put a 5 here, 5 times 3y would be 15y. I'd have 2 more y here, and that would be too much. So in fact, I think we want the 5 here and the 2 here. Okay? This is where you got to be persistent, and you got to finish this thing off, and you got to do what I call a gut check. All right? Sometimes if you've ever had a coach and you're behind and you're struggling to get back in the game, your coach might give you a gut check and try to encourage you strongly that, hey, we need to buckle down, we need to get this done, we're a team, we work together. And this is a different kind of gut check. We're checking that the middle is right. So if I put the 2 here, 2 times 3y is 6y. 5 times y is 5y, 6y, and 5y makes 11y. We've hit our target. Again, the last thing we do is the signs. I want positive 11y. I put a positive here, that would be positive 6y. Positive 5 more y, and there I've hit my target. Okay, so definitely a little more meat on the bone when you got a value up front. Okay, we got to consider the order of the factors. You definitely need to do a gut check on this. In fact, that is step 3. Make sure of the middle. You want to make sure the middle is in fact correct. So I will call that a gut check. Checking your outsides and your insides. Okay? So that really is the deal. Now what we need some repetition. Repetition is the key in math. It's the key to feeling comfortable. So let's try a couple problems here together. So here I've got some trinomials, and you'll notice the difference for today. Every one of these trinomials now has a value in front of our squared term. They're still going to factor down into binomials, but now we've got choices, and the order all of a sudden matters. Okay? So now you come here and you got 6m squared. Now this is what I was alluding to a couple minutes ago. You now have choices up front. That is called a composite number. It's not a prime. There's more than 2 factors that go into creating 6m squared. So we could go 6m, what I call the tips, or the extreme factors, or you can try the tweeners. Okay? Now I'm not going to guarantee anything, because there isn't any guarantee in this, but you will find that more often than not, the tweener ones work. So I'm going to choose the 3m times 2m as a starting point. Okay? Now, we got to get our last term. So I need 2 numbers to multiply to make 5. Well, that's a gimme, because that's a prime number. So it's either 1, 5. Now the order matters, so we need to write that the other way. 5, 1. And now I need to place them. Okay? Now I'm going to do it wrong here first, just to check that you can see me. I put a 5 there and a 1 there. Let's check that. The gut check is checking the outsides and the insides. So the outsides is 1 times 3m is 3m, and the insides is 10m. If you add them, because we need to add them, that would make 13m. No dice. No good. So I made a boo-boo there on purpose, but I wanted to show you kids, again, the order matters. So we need to place the 5 and the 1 correctly to hit 17. So I'm going to put the 5 there and the 1 there. Some of you kids will pick this up pretty easily because you're visual and you can kind of see where the outsides and the insides are going. Somebody else, you may have to have a pencil and an eraser. And you try it. If it doesn't work, we try it again. I mean, that's life. Okay, we learn from mistakes and we continue on and we go after it. So the outsides now is 15m. The insides is 2m. That adds up to 17. But be careful. You have to sign it up at the end. So I want negative 17. If I put a negative there, it would be negative 15. A negative there would be negative 2m. And that configures to negative 17m. Now I'm all happy. I boxed that up. I factored the trinomial. Okay, so definitely a little more than yesterday's lesson. Okay, now if you look at this, we have a rather innocuous looking trinomial. It doesn't look like there's a lot to it. And based on what I just said, 4 is a composite number. So your choices for the head are 4n and n, or 2n, 2n. And based on what I just said, we're supposed to try the what? The tweeners. Good. So we would go 2n, 2n, and then we put a 5 and a 1, and we try that, and it wouldn't work. 10n, 2n, 12n, nope. So I put a 5 here and a 1 here, and I got the same exact result. So I never said there was a guarantee with trying the tweener factors for the head. I said it works more often than not. This is one time where it doesn't work. And rather than 2n, 2n, we are going to have to go 4n, n. Okay, now we got to get 9 for the outsides and the insides. So where do I place the 5 and where do I place the 1? I hope you kids can see if I put a 5 there and a 1 there, that's what I want. Outsides, 4n, insides, 5n, that adds up to 9. They're both positive, and we have it factored. Okay? So this is the idea. Now, I want to get into some that are a little bit more interesting. So here's one that, this is a nice trinomial. Now if you notice the head, there's a nice component there. That is a what number? It's a prime. So there's no choices up front. It's going to have to be 3b times b to hit that term. The choices come in the back. I got 35. So how do I get to 35? Well, the tips would be 135 or 35, 1. Remember, we're going to write them both directions. 5, 7, 7, 5. Okay? Now, just another piece of advice from Teacher Man. Usually, you're going to try the tweeners first. If I put a 35 here and a 1 here without thinking, it's kind of crazy. Because if you look at your outsides, I got 35 times 3b. That would be like 105 bananas. How many bananas do I need? 8. Okay? We're not going to go on a 2-hour drive to go 8 miles. So we don't want to go 105. We want to hit the 8. So that was a poor choice. And usually the extremers are going to be kids. Unless your middle is just crazy big or crazy small, usually you're going to want to try the tweener factor. So the 5, 7 or the 7, 5. So the question is what goes where? And notice this, you guys. This is now a minus. Okay? So if I put, I'm going to do it here. I'm going to put a 7 here and a 5 here. I'm checking this. So what is my outsides now? And you guys see that would be 15b. The insides is 7b. And if I do the difference of those two, 15b minus 7b, do I hit 8b? I do. So I put them in the correct spots. So it's going to work. I got to get the signs correct now at the end. So I need to have positive 8 when I'm done with this whole deal. So I put a positive here. That would be positive 15b. Put a negative there. That's taking away 7b, and that does in fact hit 8b. But at times you may need to experiment around until you get it correct. Okay? I've been doing this for a few years, so I can kind of see it. All right? Now one more. Now this is the big boy right here, because you got choices up front and you got choices in the back. So let's see if we can get this one going here. So I need 15x squared. So again, I could go 15xx or 5x3x. The choices you want to try first, tweeners. Very good. I'm going to go 5x3x. Okay, 18 has several factor combinations, so let's list those out. The tips, 118 or 18-1. Okay? 2 times 9 or 9 times 2. And what else? No. 3 times 6 or 6 times 3. Okay? Now again, I said to kind of dismiss the extremers unless the middle is just crazy, and it's not. I really don't think I'm going to go here. It's either going to be working with the 2s and the 9s or the 3s and the 6s. Just for argument's sake, let's say I try the 6 and the 3. Most tweener ones, run a check. You just got to run a check. So outsides would be 30x, insides 9x. Do the diffie. 30 minus 9 is 21. Close, but no cigar. So it's not 3, 6. So it must be 6, 3, right? Put a 6 there, we put a 3 here, process of elimination. So now I check that out. Okay, the outsides is 15x, the insides is 18x. 18x minus 15x. 3x, whoops. So that just didn't work. So it must be 2, 9 or 9, 2. And again, this is an eyesight thing. It's a visual thing. You're looking at the insides, you're looking at the outsides, and you're trying to make the difference land on 17. So personally looking at this, I'm going to put a 9 there and a 2 there. I like that idea because my insides now is at 27x. My outsides is at 10x. The difference is 17x. So I'll make that positive. I'll make that negative. I'll box it up. You now have learned the finer points of factoring a quadratic, okay, which is a polynomial where the leading term is power 2 and you have a leading coefficient. All right, so it takes repetition and practice, but you guys can do this.